Hello and welcome to the stream. Let's get right into it. Get a little bit of Ghost. Friday night. This premiered on 4/13/2001. They say. Yes, indeed. From the island of Guam, on the west, or is it east? Here is the Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands, South and South America, North all the way to the pole, and worldwide on the internet. This Coast to Coast AM. Good evening, victims. That's what you all are, is victims. Right? There is no question in my mind, nor has there been for years, about the existence of ghosts. I know there are ghosts. I think most of you, the majority of you actually, know there are ghosts too. So every now and then we stop what we're doing, whatever that is. What is it we do here anyway? Anyway, we every now and then stop and we do what we call ghost to ghost instead of coast to coast. Actually, the same thing, just a new name. And we tell ghost stories all night long. Now, you may hear it in my voice, but if you would like to see it in my face as well, then you're going to want to be absolutely certain you check out tonight's webcam photo, which I took just a very few moments ago. That'll show you, it'll absolutely demonstrate to you what my mood is like. You'll be able to see my mood like that. It's my webcam shot. You go to my webpage, go to program. No. You don't go to program. How do you get there? Let's see. Good. I can't even operate my own computer. Here we go. Program and Art Bell Studio Cam. Yes, indeed. Took that a few minutes ago. That'll set the mood for you, all right. I would like to welcome WTSLAM in Lebanon, New Hampshire. Or is it New Hampshire? No, it's New Hampshire. Technically, it's probably New Hampshire, right? 1400 on the dial there. Yo to Sean Baker, the PD. Little do you know what you're in for, Sean. It's going to get a little rough. It always does on these nights. All we do is tell real ghost stories. And, there are a few rules to what we're going to do tonight. Let me lay those down now, all right? Only serious, interesting, scary ghost stories need to apply. They're all by phone. And you consider yourself to have, because there's as many of you out there as there are ghosts, and a million ghost stories in the night. So only the premium ghost stories need apply. I mean, they've got to be good. So that's rule one. Rule two is, for God's sakes, turn down your radio. Okay? But that's always a rule. Then there's rules about, boy, we have a lot of rules on ghost photos. Yes, we will accept ghost photographs, as I think now we have I think we have the best collection of ghost photographs on the web. If not, then we're certainly getting close, to the best. And that's thanks to all of you. The same ones that are going to provide the quality ghost stories tonight, I would like to provide quality ghost photos as well. So only the good ghost photos need apply. Now, what does that mean? That means any obvious cigarette smoke ghost photos are out. They've got to be better than that. That means a ghost photo with a camera strap blurring the front doesn't count either. Well, occasionally we get the real thing. You know, last night, or the night before, that was the night before. Somebody led me to, I think it's the 5th page in the gallery. A ghost photos, 5th page, I think. And there's this picture of this, there's an arm coming right out of the television. And it looks, if it's a fake, it's a really, really, really good fake. If it's not a fake, it's everybody's nightmare. I mean, it's just everybody's nightmare. You look at that picture, some call you there. I slowly, ploddingly made my way there on my own website, and I got to that one. And I thought, oh my God, I've never seen it. I guess it's been up there for a while, but I hadn't seen that particular one. That's a real heart stopper, absolutely no question about it. So we want only quality ghost photos sent to webmaster@artbell.com. That's he. He is standing by to review and judge your photograph. And if it's up to par, if it's really scary, we're going to put it up tonight. In fact, we've already got new ghost photos up there for you right now. As the collection continues to grow, I mean, there is no doubt. There is simply no doubt in my mind about the fact that ghosts are real. They are. They're as real as we are. There may be questions about what a ghost is. Whether it's a human soul trapped here, surely sometimes it is, right? Human souls do apparently, for at least a period, if not longer, get trapped here on Earth. And then there may be the memory, the sort of, what I don't even know what the right phrase would be. The memory that I don't know what it is that's left of a person when their soul has departed, but something that seems to stick around. That we have more components than we thought we had. I mean, soul goes this way. The lingering memory of the person goes that way. I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? We may have more components than you thought. Oh, this is really good for any program you do up here. This way of coming back into the show. It's good for any program you do. All right, so you know what we're going to do tonight? It's going to be ghosts all night long. Shall we experiment? You always got to get warmed up in this biz, so let's see. All we're taking are ghost stories tonight. That's it. No one to tell, good one, fine. All other matters are verboten. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Hi.
I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Canada, yes, sir.
See you on CGOP here.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know if I had met a ghost or a time traveler, but this is one freaky tale, let me tell you.
Well, just sort of lay it out for me real quickly if you can, and I'll try and make a judgment.
Every summer I go in there living in a tent in a campground. One night I'm sitting there listening to a football game. Skylight of an old Indian motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And skin that looked like leather. He had Texas plates on his bike.
Yeah, a lot of men Texas look like that.
And two stickers on the feather skirts. One said America, land of the free, as long as you do what you're told. The other one had a picture of Mount Rushmore and a picture of Reagan smiling with his tooth that was sparkling. And it said, don't believe any of them. Anyways, we're sitting there talking. I can give the guy supper.
If you're going to give me this kind of detail, all the way through. We don't have enough show to do this.
Okay, anyways, we get talking and comparing countries, this and that. Told me that they never really did land on the moon.
Americans never landed on the moon.
He said that. He said not only that, he said Apollo 13 didn't happen the way it said. There was no accident in space. I asked them why this would happen. They said, he said the countries morale was down, Vietnam War. He said, if you look at when they came back to the planet, the whole world stopped, sat on their seat, on the edge of their seat, held their breath. He said they done it for financing, they done it for the morale of the country. Anyways, he went on and on. I asked him what he done. He told me he was a history teacher. He was kind of grand and gave a belly laugh. He started telling me all these tales. And sometime I got out and went to use outhouse that was about 200 feet from my tent. I came back, he was gone. I never heard the fight. I asked my neighbor beside him. He never seen the guy all night. Nobody in the campground seen this guy.
So you think that he was the ghost of America? Really? I mean, teaching you history the way it really was versus the present matrix that we all live in, right?
I don't know if he was a ghost or a time traveler or what he was.
Yeah, say it's close enough. I'll accept that. That's a fair medium call. Ghost or time traveler, who knows? Matrix traveler, how about that? West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, man. Oh, man, I'm glad I made it there. Yeah, I'd like to speak to Mr. Art Bell.
This is Mr. Art Bell.
Hi, Fred. Hi, dear.
What can I do for you? Do you have a ghost story?
Yes, I do. I guess I was back in 93. I was in a 7-Eleven. There was just 3 people in the 7-Eleven store, me and 2 people. 2 people came in front of me and they were going through the yard, where the milk and the soda pops are.
Yeah.
And
generally, yeah, up against the wall usually.
But anyway, these 2 people looked they were dressed in very clothes. And they're just a few feet in front of me. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice out of nowhere. It says, only fools pay. And I was just looking around, and there was nobody there that said that. And
maybe it was a voice in your own head.
Yeah, only fools pay.
Only fools pay. Trying to talk you into popping a soda pop or God knows what else. See, could have been your own inner voice tempting you. You know, the little guy that sits over on the... Does he sit on the bad one, sit on the right or the left? And there's a good one. But the good one doesn't get to speak up that much. That sounds like a bad one.
Only fools pay in 7-Eleven. Take it, bud, and run.
First time caller line, you're on the air.
Hello, Mr. Art. This is Frank. I'm calling from Orlando. I'm listening to you on the internet.
Yes, Frank.
This is quite a few years ago. I was actually pretty young. I was 6 years old, 6 or 7. I lived in Long Island at the time. And I had an appearance of some type of apparition in my bedroom window. Stays with me today. I remember it as just like it happened yesterday.
What do you remember it looked like?
It was a definite female, a woman that appeared to be in her 30s. I remember that it was generally all one color, like the greenish or grayish color. And the best description that I can give of her, I could actually see an emotion on her face that appeared that she looked at me with compassion. If I was to see it today, I wouldn't be frightened. But then I ran out of my room screaming. And I never told anybody about this until about the age of 25. I was mentioning it to my sister. At that point, she told me that she had also seen the same thing in our house.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. What it was then was in the area of your house, and not just visiting you in particular, but
I would imagine, it was not something that I saw all the time. It was just a one-time deal. My parents never mentioned anything of it. But we did move out of that house about a year afterwards. And the people who purchased the house from us moved out about 2 months afterwards. Now, I don't know if that's related or not.
I don't suppose when you sold that house that you disclosed to this happy little honeymoon couple that was going to get it next. There was an entity in there that would tend to show up to your in your window at night.
Well, at the time, I wasn't old enough to have that kind of contact to give them that information, but...
You mean you didn't say, Mommy, Daddy, you've got to tell them?
Well, actually, I have a grandmother who was babysitting that evening, and she does remember me running out of my room screaming. But, yeah.
All right, I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you, and take care. Yes? An entity. Well, what do we know about this? We know that ghosts, particularly those produced by especially suicides, and that is worrisome, seem to hang around the place where they committed suicide, where they took their own life. So I suppose had you had a chance to, check into it a little bit, you might have found that somebody may have done themselves in on that property somewhere. These days, you've got to disclose that kind of thing when you sell a house. But you and I all know, we both know, don't we, that you would never disclose that, would you? And oh, by the way, you're buying an entity as well that's in the house here. No, you're not likely to say that, are you? So I wonder how frequently such a thing is invoked. I suppose when there's an official prior history of haunting. Now, how would you establish that? Well, newspaper articles, perhaps? I can see an attorney using that. You see, there was publicity about this house. Everybody knows there was something wrong, very, very wrong in this house. A newspaper story like that. So who would want to have one about their house, right? Nobody. Then you couldn't sell it without disclosing what was really going on inside. I'm Martel. This is Ghost AM. There's always down Georgia. He was looking for a soulless deal instead of flag, which is way behind he was willing to make a deal. He came across this young man throwing a fiddle and playing hot, and the devil jumped up on the hip and jumped and boy, let me watch. I was a good player too, and if you care to take a dare, I'll make a bet with you. Now you play a pretty good fiddle, boy, give the devil a chew. The fiddle is gold and get you falling, but I got to work. Tonight, something really awful is going to happen to you. This has burdened you long enough. This is your opportunity for release by telling your story. And if you don't, it's not my responsibility. You've been warned. On the first time caller line, you're on the air.
How you doing, Art?
Well, so far so good.
Before I tell you, can I ask you a question?
Possibly.
Do you know what lineage the Vikings were?
No.
I don't either, so I guess it's not going to help. But anyway, I don't really believe in ghost art, but I do believe in demonic manifestations. I believe there's familiar spirits which pose as people that we've known, which are actually demonic manifestations.
That is a really conservative religious viewpoint, isn't it?
Right. And I believe there's non-specific demonic manifestations.
And you believe they're all, everything that would be that explains the millions of stories we can get on this program and elsewhere, and photographs, all of it is explained by the devil.
Well, yes, because the Bible points it out about familiar spirits.
And so, all right, fine. We'll go with what you believe your category to be.
But I also believe that
I'm not going to argue it with you. You believe it. I'm
right.
You know, fine. I believe it. Just tell me, have you had an encounter with an evil, demonic spirit?
Absolutely. But let me just say that I believe that they could be interdimensional beings too. That doesn't because that's separate entities.
So you're a little open-minded.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Sure.
Go ahead, tell your story.
Now this comes with a parallel too. Me and a friend both had the same experience at different times. It's pretty wild. Not only did we have the same experience, we had been friends for several years, and then all of a sudden we found out, while he was retracing his roots, that we had the same grandfather in Ireland, the same great-great-great-great-grandfather in Ireland, which was very weird because we're both from different areas of the country, and we met each other through work. But anyway, what happened one night is I'll get right to the story. I woke up, and what I saw was really, really scary. There was a big entity in my room at the foot of my bed, and it was huge, and it had horns, great, huge horns on its head. And I'll get to the clincher of this in a minute. But it had great horns on its head, and it had red eyes, bright red eyes, and it was just standing there in my doorway.
Red eyes. Red eyes.
Right. Well, what I did is I said, of course, and I'm not really. I believe in the Bible. I believe in Christianity, but I'm not a big practicing Christian. But nevertheless, I said, in the name of Jesus, be gone. And the entity walked back through the door and faded away.
All right, you know, and I've heard this a million times.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm sorry. There's more.
Oh, there's much more to this.
I was just going to say though, and this will argue a little bit with your belief system, I know, but you might as well have said, in the name of Art Bell, the paranormal talk show host, be gone.
Well, that might have scared him too.
It might have, and it certainly would have told us a lot. Now, somebody out there should try. Now, I'm not going to be responsible for any lawsuit for any bloody popes just sort of lingering and soaking into the bed that are left after this is tried.
But there's a great other part of the story, though.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Me and my friend, we practice coffee drinking at restaurants late at night and talking about things, including your show.
Yes.
We like to talk about your show over coffee. But anyway, I told him about that experience one night. I told him, and he says, well, I had the same experience, the same thing.
Yeah.
And I said, did it have horns on its head? He said, yeah. I said, well, something similar to you said, headed back down the hallway. I didn't tell him one point of this. I said, well, tell me what it looked like. He said, well, the horns weren't really horns. It was like a Viking cap. And I looked at my friend and said, I did not tell you this part about it.
Yeah, the lineage.
That's what it was. It was a Viking cap. I didn't tell him that, but we both had the same experiences. He both said something similar, and his, instead of, just out of the room, his was in the hallway, and it walked down the hallway and disappeared. It was like a huge Viking.
I'm with you all the way, and I can't think of anything that I would less like to see than something with glowing red eyes. That creeps me out. That always creeps me out. Glowing red eyes, I know, are bad. Very bad. No matter what else, what other form the creature has, the glowing red eyes, oh, they're very bad. And by the way, just so there's no mistake about it, if I ever encountered one of these things and I had to invoke a name to get it gone, you can bet your bottom dollar it wouldn't be my name. You all want to try that, you go right ahead. Wildcard Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Hi.
This is Robert, KFI in Los Angeles.
Yes, sir. The mighty KFI.
I have been haunted by the ghost of a dead cheerleader.
Whoa. Not as bad as a lot I hear about, sir.
Oh, yes. She died quite recently. She was murdered by a photographer, and the photographer was sentenced and convicted for murdering her.
Yeah.
You remember this story?
No, but well, let's see, do I? I do remember. Well, anyway, it's not important. Go right ahead.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
cheerleader.
see, I had met her 5 years previously, but I was haunted by her in 1973 when I was in the Air Force. Would be in formation. There'd be several thousand of us in formation going to tech school, and all of a sudden, the entire formation was called to a halt. All the NCOs and officers came up to look at me, and I'm standing there wearing a cute little cheerleader outfit with pom-poms in my hand, and the airman behind me is rubbing my behind. And after that, my life was a living heck, and I couldn't understand it. And anyway,
Well, I remember boot camp real well, and people like you, if you were really out, it's like you went home the next day. That was a ticket home. So there can't possibly be more to this story. Well, there can't be, except to say that in boot camp, a lot of us in our mind's eye saw cheerleaders every day, in fact.
Well, everybody saw one.
And there wasn't a woman around to be seen.
Anyways, my former commanding officer, Richard General, shortly after that, he came down to interview me.
Why?
Because my commanding officer was friends of Yeager, and Yeager came to interview because he heard about it. This is about the time of the comment in 1973, and about the time Colonel Fox and
It never got that weird, sir. Never. Chuck Yeager had a lot of things to do with his time, but interviewing people who had donned cheerleading uniforms and basic training while getting fondled, that would not have been high on his list. I don't buy it. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
As well.
Yes.
Indeed. A little slow on the trigger here. I'm not a Canadian, so. I'm re-entering. What's the Air Force night tonight? I'm retired Air Force.
Are you?
I was stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base the last few months I was in. And since I went retired on active duty, they gave me a position babysitting in the dormitories. The buildings at F.E. Warren are extremely old. They're from after the Civil War. And I worked very late at night.
That really is old.
Yeah. I'm in a nice place. But as I was sitting there, must have been about 3 in the morning, I had a Buffalo soldier report in. And
A Buffalo soldier.
yeah, full regalia, buckskins, the hat, the pistols, just terrified me.
You mean just came right up to you?
He came into my office.
Full form, not wispy or anything like a ghost, but just solid human?
No, he was solid to me. And then he left. He just disappeared. Vaporized, I guess would be the best word for it.
In front of your eyes?
In front of my eyes. About 5 minutes after, everybody in the dormitory knew I'd seen him. Because it did scare me.
Well, there are two types after an experience like that. One is, like you, can't keep your mouth shut. You're going to have to tell everybody in sight just to feel better about it. The other is, I'm never telling anybody about this. I'm going to go have a little nap, and I'm going to see if I feel better.
Well, I lived across the field from General Blackjack's old house, Blackjack First.
Yes.
And there were reports of lights and stuff in that building, his old house. And I had never believed anything until that soldier reported to me. And
Well,
it was amazing.
here's something that I've thought an awful lot about, and that is battlefields. I, too, was in the Air Force, to pile on here, and during Vietnam, and a lot of people died, and, there are a lot of ghosts on battlefields, and I've been wondering, if a ghost is really a human soul still here on Earth, then there would be, in my mind, zero righteousness in the world and a very unfair God to take any soldier who had died in defense of his country and keep his soul trapped on Earth.
Yes,
How ultimately unfair would that be?
that would be a terrible, terrible afterlife.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you very much. Terrible indeed. So, why then are battlefields littered with ghosts? Hmm? What sort of God would allow that to occur? And the only answer you can really hope for here is that indeed it is not the soul, but some other component of what's left of you when your body is gone. Most of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Anita from Harrisburg, Oregon.
Hi there, Anita.
Hi. I have a kind of a freaky story to tell that happened to me. Actually, we've had several things happen to us in this house. And anyway, my husband and I just watched a movie. It was the Amityville Horror. And we're getting ready for bed and went and got in. And I started getting this really icky feeling, like something evil was in the room with me.
Yes.
And my husband had gone to sleep, and we had our 1-year-old son in the same room, and he started fussing and wouldn't settle down. And I was starting to doze off. Every time I doze off, I'd jump awake, like something kept bothering me, or I had this real evil feeling. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had dozed off, and I jumped awake again because it felt like something had taken a finger and run across my feet at the end of the bed, and I heard a hiss. It was a hiss.
And you don't have cats.
No, we didn't have any cats.
Hisses are really bad.
Yeah, but I had the light on all night. I was laying there on my back, because, so I could see all around the sides of me. And anyway, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, so I said a quick prayer, and that feeling went away. And finally,
and whatever it was, went away.
Yeah, it did. And my son settled down, and I settled down, and we slept the rest of the night. And
well, I guess we've got to ask: is that really the power of God? Is the prayer the invocation of the Lord's name?
Yeah, but
Jesus, does that really drive these things away, or is it just the command, your mental command to be gone?
Yes, but before that, my husband had seen a big figure in our doorway of the bedroom. He just saw the form of it, and this was like probably a couple months before my experience. And then it went away, and then a couple nights later, he woke up, and it was right in his face. And he what do you want? And it said, I want you. And he just lay there, he was just frozen. And then I woke up too, and he was just drenched in sweat.
My God, you mean you both saw him, or you when you saw him drenched in sweat, huh?
Yeah, he was all freaked out, and
I that's interesting, because I've never heard of anybody coming back from I want you.
Yeah. Well, we moved into this house. We had to clean it out, and upstairs there were stacks and stacks of witchcraft books, and we kind of think that has something to do with it.
Do you know anything about the former tenants?
Not really. Just that they weren't very clean. We had to clean up the whole house.
And they obviously had a big interest in witchcraft.
Oh yeah, big interest. And even my kids, when they were little, they slept up in that room where we cleaned the books out of. And my older son said he would see, he described them as white ladies dancing in the closet. And he said that they made kind of a growling sound.
Growling?
Yeah. Yeah, so we've had a lot of weird stuff happen here. But
that's another thing that would be really upsetting to me, would be a female growling.
Yeah, and my older daughter had seen him too at the same time. So I knew that they, and they were totally serious.
That's even more serious. When you have like two witnesses, two family members who see the same thing at the same time, if that really happens, time to move out.
Well, actually, we had a house fire, and it burned the whole upstairs.
You're kidding. Did it really?
Yeah, and so when my husband remodeled the whole house, and we tore the whole top of the house off completely. Ever since then, we have not had anything happen here in this house.
Well, I wonder, but what does that say?
I don't know. That's really, that's another thing that I found really strange, because, after the house fire, we rebuilt the house and then nothing happened again.
So you burned the ghost out. The ghost burned itself out. And what caused the fire? Do you know?
Well, I think it was I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's almost as good as smoke gas.
Yeah, house. This house was built in 1940. Lots of things could have happened here.
But see, that sort of seems to say that whatever it was locked into that physical place, that physical building.
Uh-huh.
And so what in the world do you suppose happened to it when it burned?
I don't know. That's what I've always wondered. That's had me puzzled because, we were having so many weird things happen here and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Well, a lot of people in the audience scoff at this kind of thing and they say, baloney, stories, made up stories. Not made up, is it?
No, none of it.
I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. No, not made up. Unfortunately, these things are real. I wish that we understood more about them. And try as we might, it seems nearly impossible to achieve that. Once again, you might take a glance at my webcam photo tonight when you get a chance. It was my in the mood photo. Now let's see what lurks upon the wildcard line. You're on the air. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Extinguish your radio.
I did.
Do you have a ghost story for us?
I certainly do, sir.
Let her
I have. Okay. So, in my house in Plymouth, New Hampshire, where I actually rented the apartment above an accounting office, and one night, at about 10 o'clock at night, all of a sudden I heard some loud noise, which sounded like somebody was down there slamming one of the doors. Then I heard what sounded like somebody going into a file cabinet and just ripping through the files. You just hear papers flying through. And then, and I was scared. I said, well, I yelled down to it. I said, who's down there? And I said, I have a gun up here. And no response, just started tearing through them even more. So I went and I called the local police. They showed up in 3 minutes. The noise stopped pretty much right as they showed up. I went out and, greeted them, and they were like, well, what's going on? And they went and they checked all the doors to make sure nobody, and then sure enough, they said, oh, there's nobody in there. They shine their lights in there, whatever, and they left. Well, the next morning, or later that night, I heard nothing more. But then the next morning, the accountant came in and said, I went down there and said to her, this was my landlord. I said, I thought, I have to tell you, I called the police last night. I thought someone had broken in and been going through your files. She was like, well, nothing's out of order. And she's like, that's really weird because I couldn't tell. It felt like somebody was holding the door when I tried to come in this morning.
Oh, really?
Is this our go?
Of course it is, yes.
Yes, okay.
It's like somebody was holding the door and she couldn't get in?
Yes, sir.
While all this was obviously going on, huh?
Yes, and then she went around the front, unlocked it, and went in, and went back to that back door, and that door was unlocked, and no one was there. And I was looking out every window in that house to make sure that nobody came running out of there. It's a college town.
I've got to go at that point. Thank you. This is Ghost to Ghost AM. To you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Bell, and tonight we're telling only ghost stories. That's all we're doing. Ghost stories. If you don't have a ghost story, don't call. And it better be a good one, too. And we're only taking quality ghost photographs sent to my esteemed webmaster. If you have a ghost photograph that just won't quit, not smoke, not, camera straps or anything like that. We want the real McCoy. Send it to webmaster@heartbell.com and we will post it tonight during the program. You can go look at it. By the way, I've got my own webcams. Remember when you were a kid? Well, wait till you see what the results are. With me earlier tonight on my webcam. It says volumes about my moves. You know, I look at my own webcam picture and it scares me. Do that yourself. I look at that and I go, oh my God, what's in me? You know, maybe that's a good question. What's in me? You take a look at that. Do I have my evil side? God, I look terrible. Absolutely terrible. What's for the Rockies? You're on the air. Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Glad to have you back, Art.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew. I'm in Castro Valley, California.
Oh, yes.
Listen, I have a story that took place in 1980. I was a sophomore in high school. I don't know if you know where the town of Auburn, California is.
I do indeed. Oh, yes.
Well, I went to high school in Auburn there. The high school was previously a university that my father attended. Just about a half a mile away, there was the Auburn Courthouse. Very famous building. Huge. And it had been abandoned for at least 40 years. Right after the war, they stopped using it and moved the courthouse into a more modern building. And I was an aspiring filmmaker in those days in high school. And so I managed to get permission from the county clerk to go in and do an amateur film in there. And I got the keys and I went into the place with 2 or 3 friends of mine.
This was going to be what? Just sort of historical film?
No, this was just going to be kind of a romp, kind of a fantasy little thing. I didn't quite have it worked out. We were kind of winging it as far as the film goes. Yeah. But it was just an interesting background once I got in there. I had no idea what I was in for. As far as the architecture, too, was pretty amazing. We got inside the place. If you can imagine, just a huge box, basically, made of stone, 3 stories high. And then on top of that was a giant rotund, much like a Capitol building rotund.
Oh, yes.
And on top of that was a little miniature rotund where you could get up kind of a crow's nest.
No, I can picture it. I've seen the buildings.
Okay. Well, we got in there, and the whole downstairs was all marble. I think it had been redone in the 20s in kind of Art Deco style. And there was dust and cobwebs everywhere. And we started setting up our equipment and looking around. And mostly we were using the film as an excuse to goof off because it was just such a tremendously interesting playground. And to have the keys to this place, I felt like I was getting away with something. But we started hearing banging noises coming from the upper floors. And we hadn't been up there yet, so we didn't know if anyone was in the building or not. Mm-hmm. And so we went up and checked it out. 2 of us did. And we had our girlfriends there. They stayed downstairs. They didn't want to go up. And there was no one there. So we came back down. We looked in all the courtrooms. And believe me, the courtrooms were lavish, dark varnished wood.
Oh, even modern courtrooms are that way, and all through the South they stay that way. I mean, they're really old, as you point out, heavy wood, carved wood. You really had the feeling of old church.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. And in the downstairs there were safes. There were these enormous safes with brass and steel and iron, and they were just open, several of them. And so we filmed some footage down there, and this banging continued. And so then after having found out that no one was in the building, the banging persisted, and we started really getting nervous. And yet at the same time, we were intrigued. We wanted to see something almost, we wanted to go up and have some experience, I guess, at that age. And so we kind of sneaked up there and looked around, and there was, again, no one there, nothing there. The electricity was on, so we could work the lights. And we came back downstairs, and I noticed that all my papers, my scripts in my little folder, was not on the bench where I left it. And I was looking around for it. Maybe I left it over where the safes are or somewhere else. And so I searched for it. couldn't find it. And then went back upstairs carrying all the equipment with us. And I noticed that of all things, my camera strap was gone. Someone had actually taken the camera strap, unsnapped it off the camera, the movie camera, and it was missing.
Yeah.
So we carried everything up into this gigantic courtroom, and lo and behold, on top of the bench, on top of the judge's table or desk, there was my book and the camera strap neatly folded across it. And there was only 4 of us. The girls were really reluctant to come upstairs at all. And so there was me and my friend, and I would have noticed if either of us had been carrying the book or the camera strap. And I went back down and asked the girls, how did the camera strap get off of the camera? And they said, oh, we don't know. We've just been sitting here the whole time. They were down there, having sodas and eating food or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. So we went back upstairs, and we had turned off all the lights because we wanted to see if we could do filming in the dark, with the present light coming in through the windows.
Only the young and stupid.
Well,
I mean, after all this, you're turning off the lights. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so we go back upstairs, and the light in the one courtroom is on. Now, I didn't think anything of it because who knows, my friend could have gone back up there, turned it on, whatever.
Sure.
So we're in the courtroom, the light is on. I'm filming a little footage, and then the banging happens again. So all of us go downstairs, and the girls want to leave. They don't want any part of it now. They're scared because we've already told them there's no one here.
Proving again, girls are smarter than boys.
Pretty much true. And but adventure kicks in, and so we really wanted to know what was happening.
What you call adventure is actually
Stupidity.
And youthful testosterone running out of control. Anyway, so fine, you go.
Well, the girls decided to go, and it was, the lunch hour that we had, and that was pretty much over. So, being studious individuals, they went back to school, and we stayed there, of course. And on the downstairs floor, there were cells, holding cells. Made of.
That's right. There would be cells, wouldn't there, in an old courthouse?
Well, there sure were, and a couple of them had doors at both ends. They were like long, narrow cells with a door at one end, and iron bar grates at the other end. Well, we went inside one of these cells, made sure that it couldn't lock. There was no lock on it, and the other end was wide open. We walked in. The door behind us slammed shut. For no apparent reason. And so our instant reaction was to run like the Dickens and go out the other end before it went shut. I mean, we were terrified at that point.
And so you made a dash for the other side.
Made a dash for the other side. We got out and entered into a different part of the courthouse, circled back around to where we started, and it was open, as if it had never happened.
No. So let me guess, you went back in.
Well, no, we didn't go back into the cell. At this point, it had become like a game. We were just waiting to see what the next thing was that was going to happen. And we couldn't let it go. I mean, we weren't seeing anything. We weren't hearing voices or anything. We were just convinced that somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, well, these kind of games in the movies end up with dismembered bodies. Anyway, anything else?
Well, there was one final punctuation that made us all never go back. And that happened right outside the building in broad daylight, probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Up on top of the building, there were 4 statues. And they were the typical statue of justice holding the scales and the sword.
Gotcha.
Except they weren't blindfolded, they just had their eyes closed.
Right.
4 women on the cardinal points of the compass on top. We were approaching the building. Just the 2 of us, my friend Aaron and myself. We looked up. We were just about to go in the front door. I had the keys in my hand. We looked up at the statue, and her eyes were open. And then they closed.
And they closed while you watched?
They closed while we watched. And we looked at each other, and we literally did a double take. We looked back up at the statue because we both recognized that we both had seen it.
Yep.
And we looked back up, and her eyes were shut. And that was it. We turned around and went right back to school.
The first smart move you made. That's some story, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
Karen. Oh, you know, when you look up at a statue and the eye opens and then closes, it's really time to go. I bought the whole thing, and the only thing that could have caused me to reject that entire story would be if they'd have, climbed up to investigate the statue or gone in the house. That would have been too much for me, but I'll buy what he gave. That wasn't bad. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Oh, there you go.
Where are you?
I'm on Long Island,
All right.
New York. This is Russ. This is my first time caller. And I have that happened to me when I was 4. I'm 47 now.
Okay.
And what happened was I was running around the house after my sister. My sister was 8. I was 4. And I couldn't catch up to her. And she ran down the basement stairs. I ran down there after her. And she's running around the basement and she's laughing and I'm trying to catch up to her. And as I was trying to get her, I saw the basement door open. And so I put that on the heck with it, and I ran up the basement steps to go outside. And when I got to the top of the steps, I noticed my sister was in the backyard playing. And I looked down the stairs and I said, well, she's out there playing, then who's laughing downstairs? But, at 4 years old, who really, thinks of anything scary?
Yeah, of course not.
So then I just went outside and I continued to play. That was the first thing that happened. And as I got older, my father would yell up the stairs at me and wake me up around 2 o'clock in the morning and say, what are you doing out there? Get to sleep. So I said, you just woke me up. So
something was going on around
you. He said he heard walking around. He says, you're walking around up there. I said, I'm not walking around. I said, you just woke me up. So now years go by, and I'm in the kitchen, and he's in bed sleeping, and my brother is upstairs sleeping now in that room. And I heard walking around, and I went by the stairs, and I said, Jimmy, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I went upstairs, and my brother was sound asleep. So I got a chill went up my back, and I said, geez, this is what my father's been hearing all these years,
There you are.
And so that's been going on for, that went on for quite a few years.
Have you ever seen anything?
Yes, I did. Scared the hell out of me, too. I was around 15, I would think. And we had a whole, we had company over the house. It was a party for some reason. I don't know what it was. But anyway, there was a lot of people in the house. And I was coming out of the bathroom, and directly across from the bathroom is my mother's bedroom, my parents' bedroom. And so as I opened the door to come out, I saw a woman standing in the bedroom at the edge of the bed in a long white gown. I couldn't make the face out, but she was, it was just beautiful. That's all I can remember. It was just beautiful. And I went to the kitchen and I said to my mother, I said, what's the lady inside in the bedroom with a long white gown on?
This sometimes could be a really bad thing to go tell Mom.
Anyway. Yeah. She said, I know what you're saying, Brian. She says, no, there's nobody here. And there's no one in the house with a long white gown on. So I said, I'm telling you, there's someone in your bedroom there. She's standing there at the edge of the bed and she's looking out towards the hallway. And we went in there, and of course there was nobody in there. And from that point, whenever I went past her door, I would never look in. Thank you. But because I did not want to see that woman again. And it was one time where I came home from work pretty late, and I walked in the house, and it was dark, and I said, Mom, you home? Because I had the TV on in the den, and she always kept the lights out. She just kept the den lights on, and with the TV on. So she goes, I'm home. I said, okay. I walked inside, and
I walked in the den and there was no damn TV on and there was nobody home. So I flew out the door. I mean, I got these chills that went crazy. I just like shot out that door. Then I was sleeping, and I woke up.
We don't have a lot of time now, so.
Okay. All right. I was sleeping in my room and the whole light was on. This is when I was just a kid, and I looked over toward the doorway, and there were two dark figures standing out my doorway. I don't know what they were, but they had these, like, they were shadows, and they had hats on, and they were about, I would say about 3 feet tall.
Oh, we know what they are.
And
we know what they are.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you something, Art. They were standing outside my door, and then I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, I'm fully awake here. I was rubbing my eyes, and what the heck is that? And I looked over again, and now they were in the door. They were about a foot inside the door. So I just laid down straight. I could not believe what I was seeing. I just wouldn't, I just would not believe that there was something in the room. And with that, something grabbed my feet, and I shot up through the covers, and I went for the light, and I put it on, and there was nothing in the room.
Yeah, physically grabbing your feet.
Something grabbed my feet.
Now that would scare the hell out of you. I agree with you. Thank you very much. Bad enough to see things, hear things, walking about, and then see things. But the line is drawn at the grabbing of the feet. If something physically yanks on you, that means it's strong enough to have manifested itself physically in this world, and if it wants you, it's going to have you. Mr. Rockies are on the air. Yes.
Maybe I'm private in the U.S. military army.
Oh.
And my sister had a story quite like the female before. But, I had just a little bit to add to that myself because I had one of the experiences somewhat in the same time. But we were young, living in an army base out in Fort Meade, Maryland. And my sister was up all night frequently, and she was always scared, and she was always running in the bathroom, and we just thought she was having bad dreams. Well, what the young lady had described earlier was exactly what my sister was talking to us about, and still continues to talk to us to this day. She was literally scratching at her feet and grabbing at her feet, and she would run into the bathroom, shut the door, and just cry her eyes out. Now, during that time, I was also having things waking me up and breathing up in my face, and it would scare me so much that it would wake me up.
Right in your face.
Right in my face, and it just scared me completely, and Mom did not know what was going on with her kid. Now, at one time, I had felt something actually grab me, and I thought I was sleeping. I thought it was a dream, and to this day, it still feels like a dream, but I don't know. You tell me. It almost felt like I was lifting up out of my bed and floating down the hallway, but it still, to me, it seems like a dream, but
It might have been an out of body, but when things physically grab at you, it's getting real serious. If they want you, they got you. Ghost to Ghost Day, eventually. Only ghost stories all night long, and they're all from you. They better be good ones. Ghost photographs to be directed to webmaster@artbell.com. Promise in Belvedere, Washington asks, Art, have you ever considered doing a show in a haunted house for an episode of Ghost to Ghost? I might, and I might not. I don't know. If I did it, I would want to go to a real haunted house, and there really are haunted houses. But then I have to ask myself, it would be in the middle of the night, right now, and would I really actually want to do a show from there? And the real actual answer might be no. I'm not so sure I would. I might. I know one thing for damn sure, I wouldn't do it alone. So my wife at the very least would have to come along. I think I heard. I don't think so. From the other room or something even worse. So would I do it alone? No, I wouldn't. In the unknown night once again. West of the Rockies, you're on Ghost AM. How you doing? I'm doing okay. I'm calling you from San Diego. Listening to you on KOGO. Either one. Yeah, Padres won tonight. Go Padres. But yeah, I'm KD, and I talked to you one time before I played. I'm the guy with really into summer, trying to bring it to stage. But I'll bring you the ghost story. You got it. You would have got to go right to the ghost. Well, this has to do with the ghost because. Summer time was really not that Mackinac Hotel. Yes, it was actually down near you. Yeah, hotels. I know all about that. And that's a haunted hotel. They have a room shut down. But that's not my story. I'm from Hollywood originally, and when I was about 20, I'm 34 now. A girlfriend of mine had a very successful father who bought a mansion up in the Hollywood Hills, and it had been empty for about I don't know, 8 to 10 years or so, whatever. And the first night he bought it, he was very excited. He told his daughter, and we went to go check it out, and it had a pool. And I'm a swimmer guy, from Hollywood. Anyway, it was a really creepy pool because all the plants and everything are kind of overgrown, and it was a flat bottom pool. But it was nighttime, and I took a dive in, and I'm a great swimmer. It was a hot summer night. It was in August. Young and stupid, and in Hollywood. Yeah, I was, and it gets worse. So I dived in. And when I was under the water, I just got this panic feeling that something was wrong. And I got up and I got right out of the pool. I said, something weird about that pool. So I passed the gentleman whose house it was moved in, and he went away. He's got schools in London and Hollywood and New York, so he went away, and he didn't like me to see his daughter, so I was not allowed at the house for. Anyway, he was in London for 2 weeks, supposedly. So I went over. Good time to see daughter. Yeah. So I went over, and I brought my Ouija board, which I'd been messing around with I don't know. So we Ouija'd there, and we got a hold of, and I'd been familiar with it. She wasn't that familiar.